Hey guys, I just got reached out to by a project manager of a game developer studio, and they wanted to ask me a bunch of questions. They want to do an interview on the success of Last Day on Earth and why it went so successful and like why other survival games aren't quite as successful. Basically, they want to just ask me a bunch of questions. I think because, wow, I totally wasn't paying attention. I think that this is a bot. I think that, yes, it's a bot. They reached out to me and let me think about some of their questions. So I came across your YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. I see you're quite the expert in the genre. That's the survival genre. That's what got my attention there. They were like, survival game expert. And I was like, ooh, cool. I'd love to hear from a survival game expert. And then I read the email and it was like, oh, I'm the survival game expert. Oh, okay. That was very honoring, very flattered. Got a hot, feeling right in the clouds. Maybe getting a little prideful. Lower that down. Anyways, they said, would you be up for a short call over the internet? I'd like to get your perspective on the different games by Kafir in this genre, and your reasons why Last Day on Earth did so much better than the other similar games in their portfolio, and also better than similar games by other companies as well. I want to understand what you enjoyed and disliked about the different games of this genre. So so I said yes already, but I wanted to know some of y'all's thoughts. So I'm going to basically practice on you guys, so that when we interview, so basically I have y'all's thoughts to throw into the interview. But y'all have heard my views on this a lot before, I'm sure. And basically my main view why Last Day on Earth was so successful is because it was the first of its kind. In combination that it was truly free to play early on. It was easy to advance quickly. You felt like you had a great sense of progression. But then there's a few other things that I think really worked with Kafir's game. And one of them is actually their clickbait. The fact that when you go in here, so this is Frostborn. This is their best game of like mechanics wise. It's got the best mechanics, the best servers, all that stuff. Some of this stuff doesn't exist, and actually in Frostborn most of it does exist, but the laboratory doesn't exist, the battle cart and the Draker don't exist. In Last Day on Earth it was even more, and so one of the things that it did, so first of all, it was the best of its kind. No one had on the mobile phone a good survival game as good as Last Day on Earth at the time. And so it was novel and it was new. And no one was jaded by Kafir yet. No one would be like, oh yeah, they're gonna... That felt too early. Let me check. I think that might have been a real player. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it was free to play, and a really solid free to play game on the mobile phone was rare. The same thing why Clash of Clans started to do really well early, but then they changed the monetization system. So I don't know if that's like a plan all along. They're like, oh yeah, start out free to play and then slap it to them later, or if that's just human nature. Like I don't know if things start to go down and they're like, let's do this. I have no clue. Or things are going well and they're like, hey, how do we monetize this? Or they get experts to come in and the experts are like, you need to monetize your game better. You're not making enough money, taking care of your stockholders. That's my business expert voice. And so I don't know what it is, but it just seems to be the trend. It happened in Clash of Clans. It happened in Last Day on Earth. It's happened, you see it on so many games. And so, whatever the case is, that's what happened. And then the third one is this clickbait stuff. Having stuff that doesn't actually exist in the game. And then, like, for example, we could go, man, it doesn't seem like this is a person. I don't know. So, having stuff that doesn't exist. So, you've got, let's go to, Hell's Citadel, it's like, oh, get the 5 keys, that doesn't exist in this game. And the fact that some of it exists in the game is like confirmation that the rest probably exist. And so you're like, yeah, I'm going to get all the keys. We're going to go into Hell Citadel. It's going to be great. But it doesn't actually exist. And what that does, like this also, the Cursed Forest, it says visit closer locations first. They don't say this does not exist in the game yet. It's like, no, this does exist in the game. Just you have to get closer. And like, how do I get closer? There used to be this whirlpool here. The lighthouse, you got to get a Draker. The Draker doesn't exist. So it's just this doesn't exist, but this one does. Like you can, and they look like the same way to get into both of them, but one exists and one doesn't. The reason why that was so successful in Last Day on Earth is twofold. One, people are not, they don't know when they're done with the game yet. They don't know when they're bored with the game yet. Two, it brings people to YouTube for answers, which gets people talking, not just YouTube, Facebook. Basically, it gets people talking about the game on social media and creates community where you're dependent on the players that are telling you that thing doesn't exist in the game. That's what made my original channel explode, is because I was giving that information on YouTube, and people were like, in a short, short little bits of time, and people were like, oh my gosh, thank you. I was so confused by this game. And so it also brought a lot of success to me. I owe that third section of why Last Day on Earth did so well to that aspect of the game. Even Frostborn. A lot of you guys are watching this video because you know me as the Frostborn guy. Well, I kind of knew that was going to happen because I played other Kefir games, and this clickbait is what gets a lot of you to come and check me out for answers. But this time I also became wise with YouTube and realized, I can actually experience more success, a lot more success, by not giving short informative videos like my main channel did, but do gameplay channels, kind of like Star Snipe and Cyric. Watching those guys and seeing what they do, I'm like, okay, I can do that too. Unfortunately, Frostborn didn't do as well as Last Day on Earth, and so that really goes into part of what these devs' questions are. They're asking, why did Last Day on Earth do so much better? Well, and I would say that the first thing is just that it was the first. It was the first. So, and the first always does, the novelty of it, the originalness of it. A lot of people wouldn't even try Frostborn because they're like, no, Last Day on Earth is the original. Just fix Last Day on Earth. Some of them were like, no, I don't even like single player. I want PvP. And I was like, okay, so you're going to do Frostborn? And they're like, no, I'm going to wait for it for Last Day on Earth. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? This game has so much more to offer in the area of PvP. Why? Why would you do this? So the second reason I don't think they took off as well is because people Kefir had a reputation by then. Like Kefir, a lot of people were jaded by Last Day on Earth and felt like, it's just going to go pay to win. And a lot of people, it's funny how with Frostborn, a lot of people were like, I don't know. And I'm like, guys, Frostborn is not pay to win. It's not pay to win. And they'd be like, I don't know, and then they'd finally join, after months and months of me telling them, you got to play. And then it was like the next update that they did, the horse update, and the game became partially pay to win. And then they added level 4 classes and it became really pay to win. Well, actually before that they added level 3 classes, which were a little pay to win. Anyways, now it's super pay to win when they added runes. It's like ridiculously pay to win. So they didn't play the game when it wasn't pay to win, and because they were jaded by Kefir, and then they joined right before it actually did become pay to win. So I think those are the two reasons, in my opinion, why Frostborn didn't do as well. It wasn't as novel. People were onto them. They were onto them. They're like, no, we know what Kefir's up to. We know what this is about. There was also some really big bugs with Frostborn. Frostborn was a way more ambitious project. It was not as much of a single player project. I mean, Frostborn still did pretty well. I mean, from a game's perspective, but which goes into their other question of why did Last Day on Earth do better than other similar games of other companies. Which that's a more complicated question. If you're talking about like Craft of Survival and Lost in Blue, again, I would say it's all the novelty. I also think that there's some suspicion. I mean, y'all know that I have some suspicion that some of those games are made by Kefir, but I would say it's mostly novelty. Is the reason why those games aren't doing as well. And then some of them, yeah, that would be the main thing. And then when you take other survival games, well, really, there aren't any big companies that have undertaken a Last Day on Earth type style game. I'm really surprised NetEase loves to semi-copy other people. I think they get permission to do it from those companies, and maybe Kefir, maybe they have reached out to Kefir, and Kefir is like, no, you don't have permission to do it. And so they just haven't been able to make it work. But I'm surprised NetEase hasn't tried to make a game like this. But I think if they did, if NetEase made a game like this, it would do better. I mean, it would do really well. And maybe that's why Kefir doesn't want to give it to him. I don't know. So, but I want to know y'all's opinion. I'm really excited about this interview. I will, if they allow me to. I've asked them if I can record it and share it with you guys. I think they will. I don't see why they wouldn't. So I'm going to record it. But if you guys have other thoughts that you think, oh, no, yeah, but it's also this factor, you know, like Last Day on Earth had blank, or this factor, whatever it is, and you think, oh, you're missing something, then make sure to put that in a comment, because I really want to I'm going to read through them. I want to make sure that when I do this interview, I've thought through all of the different aspects of why Last Day on Earth just took off and is doing so much better than other survival games of its type. And you guys know, like, this is something I love to talk about. So, but I want to have it all. So you let me guys know, or you guys put in the comments if you have any thoughts, and hopefully we'll give this guy a really good interview. And then I'm going to ask him, are you doing this because y'all are creating a survival game? And if so, we have thoughts on how to make it good, like how to make it really successful, and maybe we can help you out. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.